Chosen one. There was a moment in your life when you should not be here, not logically, not statistically, not according to the pattern that surrounded you, because something reached for you, something dark, something final, something that carried the weight of an ending, and yet it did not succeed. You survived what others did not. You walked away from what destroyed them, and ever since then, life has felt isolated, not empty, not meaningless, but quiet. That quiet is not abandonment, it is protection. Before we go any further, if this message resonates with your spirit, comment, "I am chosen" below. Let your declaration be seen. And if you feel truth settling in your chest, like the video and subscribe. Not for me, but to anchor this message in your awareness. Now breathe, because death tried to touch you, and it couldn't. Chosen one, you may have noticed that your life doesn't unfold like everyone else's. Your losses were heavier. Your awakenings were earlier. Your separations were sharper. And your loneliness has been misunderstood. People think you're isolated because you are broken, because you're antisocial, because something went wrong. But the truth is more precise. You were removed, not because you were weak, but because you were marked. There are seasons when God does not add people to your life, He subtracts access. There are moments when heaven does not elevate you publicly. It hides you privately. And the reason you feel alone right now is because what almost ended, you also activated you. You didn't just survive danger, you survived assignment interference. Something recognized what you were carrying before you did. Something sensed the future you were meant to step into, and it attempted to stop it early. That is why the pressure was intense, the attacks subtle but relentless, and the exhaustion deep without a clear cause. When destruction fails, separation begins. When elimination doesn't work, isolation is deployed. This is why friendships dissolved without explanation, why certain doors closed abruptly, and why you outgrew environments overnight. It wasn't punishment, it was preservation. You were taken out of circulation because exposure would have cost you your purpose. The silence you're in now is not emptiness, it's recalibration. God hides His sharpest instruments before He uses them. What feels like delay is actually containment. What feels like loneliness is actually insulation. You are being kept from energies that would drain you, from conversations that would distract you, and from relationships that would dilute what's been entrusted to you. The world calls it isolation, but spiritually it's consecration. You're not losing people, you're losing interference. You're not falling behind, you're being aligned. The reason peace started replacing chaos is because chaos no longer had permission to reach you. And the reason you feel different now is because you are. You crossed a line most never do. The line between survival and assignment. You're still here because you're needed. You were spared because there's work ahead. And this quiet season is not the end of your story. It's the moment the noise was removed so your calling could finally speak. Now, let's dive deeper. Point 1, the failed assignment of the adversary. We must begin with the truth that there was a hit put out on your spirit, not in the physical world where evidence can be traced, but in the unseen realms where intention moves faster than matter, because darkness always recognizes light, long before the light recognizes itself. And the moment you entered this world carrying that rare frequency, the enemy saw the kingdom code written into your DNA, the signature that marked you as the one who would break generational addiction, the one who would interrupt inherited cycles of poverty, abandonment, abuse, and silent suffering. The one who would heal family trauma simply by surviving it and refusing to become it. The one who would bring provision where there was only lack, clarity where there was confusion, and strength where there was resignation. And because of that recognition, a spirit of premature death was dispatched toward your life, not once, but repeatedly, in subtle forms that felt ordinary on the surface, yet carried deadly intent beneath. Think back to the time your body weakened without explanation, when doctors ran tests but found nothing conclusive, when your strength drained and your intuition whispered that something deeper was happening. Think back to that accident that should have taken you out, the car destroyed, the timing impossible, yet you stepped out alive, shaken but breathing. Think back to that night when your mind grew heavy, when despair spoke with a voice that sounded like your own thoughts, when the idea of disappearing felt seductive, final and quiet, and yet something intervened, a memory, a name, a sudden resistance you couldn't explain that stopped you in place. That wasn't coincidence, that wasn't luck, that wasn't mere willpower. That was divine intervention from the Most High, because death tried to touch your mind, it tried to touch your body, it tried to touch your spirit. And every time the enemy advanced, heaven countered with precision. You survived not because the threat wasn't real, but because your life is governed by a divine clock, and until your assignment is complete, nothing in this realm has permission to remove you. You have been preserved intentionally because the world needs what you are carrying, even if it does not yet know how to ask for it. And the enemy tried to take you out early because he understands potential better than most humans ever do. He tried to destroy the seed before it could become a forest, to silence the voice before it matured into authority, to end the story before the turning point arrived. But he failed. His grip has weakened. The chains are loosening. The seal of protection is being reinforced over your life even now. And the fact that you are still here is not an accident. It is evidence that what is ahead of you is more dangerous to darkness than anything you have survived so far. Point 2, the divine hiddenness and the season of secrecy. You feel lonely, and it hurts, not in a shallow way, but in a quiet, aching way that settles into your chest, when the noise of the world fades and you realize you are walking this road mostly by yourself. You see the groups, the parties, and the inner circles forming effortlessly around others, and you find yourself on the outside looking in, wondering why connection seems so natural for everyone else, but so elusive for you. You have tried to fit in, tried to soften your edges, and tried to dim your light so it wouldn't intimidate or unsettle anyone. Yet, no matter how much you adjust yourself, it never works. You're always too intense or too quiet, too deep or too different, too much for some and never enough for others. And here is the truth you must finally hear and let settle into your spirit. This is not a social failure, and it is not a flaw in your character. This is divine sequestration. This is intentional isolation. When a king prepares a secret weapon, he does not place it in the open market where anyone can touch it, criticize it, or misuse it. He hides it, he places it in a secure, silent chamber where it can be sharpened, refined, strengthened, and calibrated for its exact purpose. That is where you are right now. You are not being rejected, you are being reserved. You are being hidden because your presence carries weight and your destiny carries consequence. If you were constantly surrounded by people at this stage, you would be influenced by their limitations, their fears, their unresolved wounds, and their small-minded expectations of life. If you had the friendships you think you want right now, they would slowly talk you out of the vision placed inside you, not out of malice, but out of their own inability to see what you are meant to become. They would normalize your calling until it felt ordinary, and anything ordinary can be easily abandoned. So the Father has reduced the noise around you so your inner world can become louder. He has removed the crowd so your discernment can sharpen. He has separated you so your identity does not get diluted by the opinions, projections, and labels of people who were never meant to walk the full distance with you. Your loneliness is not empty time, it is active preparation. In the silence of your room, something is being rewired. In the quiet of your car, something is being clarified. In the solitude of your walks, something is being downloaded that cannot be received in chaos. This loneliness is a filter, and it is doing its job perfectly. It is filtering out gossip that would have distracted you, attachments that would have drained you, relationships that would have delayed you, and voices that would have confused you. You are being protected from premature exposure, from explaining yourself to people who would never understand, and from carrying emotional burdens that were never yours to hold. Right now, your spirit is learning to recognize one voice above all others. Your ears are being tuned, your perception is being refined, and your inner authority is being established. This is how leaders are formed, how vessels are prepared, and how strength is built that does not depend on applause or validation. Do not rush this season, and do not resent it. Do not beg to be included in rooms you were only meant to pass through. Do not mistake quiet for absence or solitude for abandonment. You are not alone. You are being covered. You are not forgotten. You are being focused on. This season is not your prison, it is your womb. And what is being formed in you now will one day require this very depth, this very stillness, this very separation to stand firm when others collapse. Point 3, the protocol of the wilderness. Every chosen one in history was not revealed on a stage, but refined in isolation. And this is the pattern you're living out right now. Before purpose is announced, identity is stripped down to its core. Moses did not step into destiny immediately. He disappeared into the desert for 40 long years, where silence taught him humility and solitude taught him obedience. Joseph did not move from dreams to dominion overnight. He was lowered into a dungeon where betrayal rewired his heart and patience forged his wisdom. David did not go from shepherd to king in a straight line. He hid in caves, hunted by those who feared what he carried, learning to trust God when no one was clapping. You are in that same season now. This is your cave. This is your wilderness. And the wilderness is not a place of punishment. It is a place of preparation. It is where illusions are dismantled and truth is installed. It is where you learn that validation does not come from crowds, praise or recognition, but from alignment. In this place, you are discovering that you do not need the world's applause to be legitimate. You are learning that your survival does not depend on a paycheck, a title, a relationship, or a system that can collapse overnight. It depends on provision that comes from a higher source, on manna that falls quietly, daily, just enough for today. In this wilderness, death tried to touch your hope. It whispered that you were abandoned, delayed, and forgotten. It tried to convince you that you would expire in obscurity, unseen and unloved, that this season would be your grave rather than your womb. But look at you. You are still standing, bruised perhaps, tired, yes, but not defeated. You're learning how to find water in dry places, how to draw strength from places that once looked empty. You're learning how to hear the still, small voice when everything else goes silent. How to recognize divine guidance without noise, without confirmation, without proof. This wilderness is where your old self is being laid down, so the chosen one can rise. The version of you that needed approval is fading. The version of you that feared rejection is dissolving. The version of you that lived in shame, regret, or anxiety about the future is losing its grip. Death is not coming for your calling. It is coming for your conditioning. It is touching the old habits, the old mindsets, and the old attachments that could not follow you into the next season. But it cannot touch your essence. It cannot touch what God placed inside you before anyone ever knew your name. That part of you is untouchable, protected, and sealed. You are being stripped, not to be humiliated, but to be unhindered. You are being emptied so you can be filled with clarity, authority, and discernment. And when you come out of this wilderness, and you will come out, you will not smell like smoke. You will not carry the residue of bitterness or defeat. You will smell like anointing. You will carry wisdom earned through endurance, compassion shaped by suffering, and authority that comes from obedience in the dark. You are not emerging empty-handed. You are coming out with a testimony that will unlock prisons, a story that will give language to silent pain, and a presence that will remind others that survival is possible, that hope can live in deserts, and that what tried to end you only prepared you to set captives free. Point 4, the armor of the isolated. Why does the isolation feel so heavy? Because you are being fitted for armor that the average person could never carry, and the weight you feel is not punishment, it is preparation. This season is not empty, it is intentional. When everything goes quiet and familiar voices fade, something deeper begins to form inside you. Isolation strips away the distractions that once numbed your spirit and forces you to face the raw core of who you are and who you are becoming. In solitude, you develop a spiritual thickness of skin. You learn how to stand without applause, how to remain upright when no one is watching, how to keep moving forward when encouragement is absent. This is where your faith stops being borrowed and becomes embodied. You are learning how to pray until things change, not with desperation, but with authority. You are learning how to stand on a promise even when the evidence says you're losing, even when logic tells you to quit, even when emotions beg you to compromise. Isolation is where belief becomes muscle memory. This is where your spiritual immune system is built. Just as the body grows stronger by exposure, your spirit grows resilient by pressure. Weak faith collapses under loneliness, but chosen faith is refined by it. The chosen one cannot be fragile. You are being prepared to carry weight, emotional weight, spiritual weight, responsibility, influence. Fragile vessels crack under pressure, but reinforced ones become containers of power. You are not being hidden. You are being reinforced. You are going to be a leader, a lighthouse, a pillar in your community. And pillars do not begin surrounded by crowds. Pillars are poured in silence, cured in stillness, tested by time. They have to stand alone before they can support a roof. If you cannot handle the isolation, you cannot handle the influence, because influence magnifies everything you are. The divine is watching how you handle the no's and the not yets, how you respond when doors close, when prayers seem delayed, when validation is withheld. Every time you choose to praise instead of complain in your loneliness, you are adding a layer to your armor. Every time you resist bitterness and choose trust, another plate locks into place. Every time you refuse to self-destruct just to escape the silence, your foundation deepens. Death tried to touch your joy, but you found a way to rejoice anyway. Loss tried to hollow you out, but you refused to let it own you. That makes you dangerous to the enemy, because suffering did not turn you cynical. It made you clear. A person who can be happy alone is a person the devil can never bribe. When you are no longer desperate for approval, validation, or escape, manipulation loses its leverage. You are becoming unbribable. You are becoming unshakable. You are learning how to sit with yourself without needing to perform, prove, or pretend. You are learning how to draw strength from the unseen, rather than applause from the visible. This is not loneliness. This is consecration. This is the season where your spine is strengthened, your vision sharpened, and your spirit anchored. When you emerge, you will not beg for space. You will command it through presence alone. What once felt like abandonment will reveal itself as alignment. What once felt like delay will show itself as divine timing. You are not breaking down in isolation. You're being built into a fortress. Point 5. The rejection is divine direction. I know the sting of being ghosted, the quiet shock when messages go unanswered and your name is missing from the invitation list. The slow realization that you were present yesterday but invisible today. And I want you to understand something deeper than emotion, deeper than psychology, deeper than human intention. Because when you look at rejection through prophetic eyes, everything changes. Rejection is not abandonment. It is alignment. Rejection is nothing more than the divine hand pushing you away from a table that was already poisoned, a table where smiles hid envy, where laughter masked resentment, where proximity would have eventually turned into betrayal. Every person who walked away from you was not a loss, but a bullet you never had to take. Every door that slammed in your face was not a failure, but a room that was about to collapse while you were still inside it. You think you were being excluded, but heaven was intervening. The divine saw conversations you never heard, intentions you never suspected, and motives that would have cost you your peace, your purpose, or even your future. That disagreement that came out of nowhere was not random, it was surgical. It was precise. It happened early so the damage would not happen later. The Father saw the heart of that friend and knew they would betray you at your highest point, not your lowest. So he allowed separation now while the stakes were still survivable. He saw that job you wanted would have drained your spirit, diluted your calling, and chained your identity to survival instead of destiny. So he made sure they never called you back. You thought you were being overlooked, but you were being preserved. You are grieving what you think you lost, but the heavens are celebrating a rescue you don't yet understand. What felt like silence was actually protection in motion. What felt like rejection was divine extraction. Death tried to touch your future through toxic connections, through environments that normalized dysfunction, through relationships that required you to shrink, perform, or betray yourself just to belong. But the Father severed the ties before the poison could reach your heart. You were not pushed out because you were unworthy. You were removed because you were incompatible with decay. There are spaces that cannot hold your fire without being exposed, and instead of dimming you, God moved you. You are not being rejected, you are being redirected. You are being repositioned for alignment, for clarity, for a circle that does not fear your growth or resent your light. Where you are going, your presence will not be tolerated reluctantly. It will be required. Where you are going, you will not have to explain your depth, apologize for your boundaries, or prove your value. The separation hurts because you are human, but the purpose behind it exists because you were chosen. Stop begging for access to rooms God has already deemed unsafe. Stop trying to reopen doors He locked with intention. Stop romanticizing connections that required you to abandon discernment. You were never meant to fit everywhere. You were meant to be protected until you arrived where you belong. Trust the redirection, trust the removal, trust the silence. What you lost could not go where you are going, and what you are becoming requires an environment that can handle your fire without trying to extinguish it. Point 6, the anatomy of a survivor. Let's look closely at the death that tried to touch you, because it was never random and it was never final. For some, it was a literal moment when life almost slipped away. A hospital room, a night when breathing felt borrowed, a second chance no one could explain. For others, it was the collapse of a marriage, the sudden ending of a business you built with your own hands, the quiet assassination of your reputation by people who smiled while they cut. Different forms, same intention. The enemy wanted you to stand in front of what died and draw the wrong conclusion. He wanted you to believe that because something ended, you were finished too. He wanted you to put on the grave clothes of nostalgia, regret, and shame, to live wrapped in the language of what used to be, replaying old seasons as if they were proof that your future was cancelled. But there is a higher law operating over your life, a kingdom law that overrides visible loss. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. What you called death was actually planting. What looked like burial was preparation. The things that died were never the core of you. They were the outer shell, the temporary structures that could not carry what you were becoming. They had to crack, they had to break, they had to fall away so the life inside you could breathe, stretch, and multiply. The enemy misread the season. He thought he was ending you, but heaven was pruning you. You are not here by accident. You are here because you carry resurrection DNA. Every time pressure came to crush you, something in you adapted instead of breaking. Every time the enemy thought he had you pinned down, breathless and defeated, you rose again, not louder, not angrier, but wiser and more grounded. When he tried to silence your song, you didn't force the old melody back. You found a new one, deeper, quieter, stronger. You learned how to worship without applause, how to stand without validation, how to trust without guarantees. That is why you confuse people. You are an anomaly. Statistically, emotionally, spiritually, you shouldn't still be standing. You've outlived predictions, outgrown labels, and survived things that would have hollowed out others. Yet, here you are, not frantic, not bitter, not desperate, but carrying a strange calm that doesn't match your history. That calm is not denial, it is evidence. It is peace that surpasses understanding. And it didn't come because life got easy. It came because God proved himself faithful in the fire. That peace is your greatest weapon. It unsettles the enemy because it means intimidation failed. It means fear did not take root. It means loss did not get the final word. When people look at you now, they don't just see survival. They see light. They see someone who walked through death and came out with clarity, boundaries, and authority. Your very presence testifies that resurrection is not an event, it is an identity. You don't just believe in God, you move with him. And every step you take sends a message into the unseen realm. You can take my titles, you can take my comfort, you can even take seasons from me, but you cannot take my God, you cannot touch my calling, and you cannot stop what heaven has already decided to raise. Point 7, the manifestation of the chosen. We are entering a season where the hidden ones are being brought to the front. And this moment did not arrive by accident or coincidence. It arrived by precision. The time of your seclusion is nearing its end, and what felt like delay was actually divine insulation. Every silent night, every unanswered prayer, and every season where you were unseen was shaping your discernment, sharpening your spirit, and strengthening your inner authority. The lessons you learned in the dark were not meant to stay hidden. They were rehearsals for the light. You have been preserved for such a time as this, guarded when others fell, and restrained when rushing ahead would have destroyed you. As the world grows darker, heavier, and more chaotic, your clarity will stand out without effort. Your presence will speak before your words, and your light will shine brighter than ever before. You are about to step into rooms you didn't even know existed, spaces that were prepared long before you arrived, and doors that will open not because of connections, but because of calling. You will receive favor from people who don't even like you, yet they will feel compelled to assist you, promote you, and make room for you because the hand of the divine rests visibly upon your life. The death that tried to touch you failed. The sickness, the accident, and the collapse that should have ended you are now behind you, and the loneliness that tried to break you has become your greatest strength, teaching you self-mastery, discernment, and unshakable faith. You are walking into a season of total compensation, where nothing is returned partially and nothing is restored cheaply. Everything the locust has eaten, every opportunity stolen, and every year lost in the wilderness is being repaid with interest, momentum, and authority. You are not merely surviving anymore. You are transitioning into alignment, into abundance, into influence. You are moving from the cave to the palace, from obscurity to visibility, and from the desert to the garden, and this time you arrive prepared, protected, and unmovable. Chosen one, lift up your head. The clouds are breaking. The morning is here. You have passed the test. You have endured the pruning. You have survived the attack. You are a living testimony that what the divine has blessed, no man can curse. You are a living testimony that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. You are a living testimony that even when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you shall fear no evil, for he is with you. His rod and his staff, they have comforted you. They have kept death at bay. They have kept the wolves away from your door. You are protected. You are loved. You are chosen. If this message has ignited a fire in your soul, if it has confirmed what you've been feeling in your spirit, then it is time to make your mark. Do not be silent. The enemy wants you silent, but your voice is your victory. If you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are here by divine design and that the hand of protection is over your life, then I want you to testify right now. This is your moment of public alignment with your destiny. Scroll down to the comments and type, "I am chosen." Type it in all caps. Type it with conviction. Let it be a seal upon this word. Let the world know, let the enemy know, and let your own soul know. I am chosen. Like this video to spread this fire, and subscribe to stay on the anointed path. Your greatest days are not behind you. They are standing right in front of you. Go forth in power. Go forth in peace. Go forth in the name of the one who called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light.